Alright, so let's get started. We're going to move you in and teach you how to build. So the first thing we'll do is this navigation window up here. We're going to click Sales. Now it could say Marketing or whichever demo you chose. So in this case, I chose Sales, so it's going to show me the Sales module. Now the first thing we're going to do is make an account. And an account could be any company you're dealing with. Now you can create an account for a company that you're dealing with, that you're selling to, or an existing customer of yours, or even just a potential lead. And then you populate them with contacts. Contacts are those that go within the account. So we'll start off with that. And as you can see here, there are no account records here because this is a fresh demo. So we'll go ahead and create our first account. Alright, so click on New. And after we've clicked New, we're going to create the account name. So this will be our customer. We're going to call them Google Incorporated. Primary contact will be Joe Smith. Now you can create an account number over here, but since our company is not really big, we don't need to. And now for parent accounts, which is actually really important because you could be dealing with multiple companies that have parent accounts above them. You could create that hierarchy system and then you could follow that through. And you could create the contacts under each parent account. And depending on what level of service you're trying to do, you could see which parent account would be the best one to reach out to. So now we're going to go ahead and put an email for Google. We'll go with google@google.com. And I'm going to make the phone number simple, just 555, just a bunch of fives. Now the other phone number, we don't really have to worry about it. As for the website, I'm going to put www.google.com. And you may have noticed that it automatically added the HTTP. Also, if I really wanted to, I could click on it and it'll pop up the window for the website, which I think is really neat. And depending on what you've created in the system, if you need to get quick access to the website, you could just click on it right over here. Now we'll put in the address. This could be the bill to, the ship to, or the primary address. You could basically put many addresses. You could put address 1, address 2, address 3, if you want to customize that in the system. So for this case, we'll just say that it's a primary address. Maybe we won't bill to or ship to them right now. Maybe we're just talking to them or dealing with them. So now we'll set the street 555 Windmere Lane. As for the city, I'll put San Diego, even though they're not from San Diego. As for the state, I'll put California and zip code 90210. As for the country, United States. And phone number 555-5555. So say that wasn't Joe Smith. There's actually one thing I didn't show you. So Joe Smith is already in the system right now, but let's say that we have a new CAO in charge and we want to get rid of that Joe Smith. Maybe that new CAO is someone else. Maybe it's Jane Smith. So she just took over the company, and so let's go ahead and add her. So right away we got an error because yeah, we could create a Jane Smith, but what this is telling me now is that there's no record found of Jane Smith in the system. Now let's create a record. So for every account, if you put a contact in there, there has to be a contact created. So we have to create a contact under the contact entity. Now generally, any contacts that you create, you want to associate it with an account. So in our case, we want to associate Jane Smith with Google. But since Jane Smith is not yet in the system, we'll go ahead and add her in right now. And as you can see, we have Jane Smith here. And if you click on Look Up More Records, you can clearly see there's no other Jane Smith. And looking up records, it also makes it easier for you to find out if there's any duplicates here. Also, the system will alert you as well if there's any duplicates. So for instance, if there was another Jane Smith here, it would show her name over here. Then over here, it would show her email from what company she's at. Maybe she's from Verizon. And over here, her business phone. So you can see all the information here, and it'll give us more insight. Because perhaps we need to create another Jane Smith. Or perhaps the Jane Smith from Verizon is the same one we already got here, and so we need to update the contact, because what's the point of having two contacts for the same person, right? So yeah, let's make sure all our information is together, and let's make sure they're all up to date. Now we could go ahead and click New over here, which is one way of creating it, but I personally like doing it the faster way, which is pretty simple. Just click this search over here, and then click New. And this creates like a quick add, which is like really easy. And now I can just adjust this, add Jane, delete this part because the system wasn't able to separate the two first and last names. Now for the job title, we'll just put CEO. As for the account name, it hasn't been created yet, so Google also hasn't been created yet. Otherwise, I'd be able to associate it with Google. So for now, we'll just skip it. For email, we'll put janesmith@google.com. And her mobile number, I'll just put 77, a bunch of sevens. Now, we don't know her address. If you really know, you could add that, but personally, I would stay away from that. If you knew her business phone, you could add that, and you could also add a little description. So now we're gonna save her. Alright, so the account has been created now. I can fill up all this other information, like the type of profession they're in terms of the industry. You can put in the annual revenue or the number of employees. We'll just put 1,000. Now for the ticker symbol, we'll just put Goog. As for ownership, it'll be a public company now. You can really change anything you want, like the territory, the relationship type, the currency. We have this set to Canadian because we're here in Canada, but you can really change it to anything, so that's good. Now let's go ahead and create this. So click Save, and now it's created. And so now Google exists in the system. So if I were to go into James Smith, you'd be able to see all her information here. And now I'd be able to associate her with Google because Google is now created. As you can see, this is the information we put, Google Incorporated, google@google.com. This is the number, so we know this is the one we created. And I can associate her with this, I can save it, and now we're done with contacts, and we're done with accounts.